So this turkey season, I bought some new decoys to start out. The ones I had were a little bit outdated. They've really improved on them a lot. Oh, you have, a little bit more realistic looking head. These are the Feather Light Flock from Bass Pro. I believe it's the Redhead brand. I like a couple of things about them, and some of the things I don't like. One, has a washer underneath on the metal rod. It just goes up in to the decoy. Then you tighten a little wing nut down on it. I kind of like this feature. Because it gives me a little bit of wind resistance, so my decoy is not spinning if the breeze picks up. With foam decoys, you always want to take your time, fluff them out. The second thing I like is how the stake is. It has a little foot pedal, so you can get it to stick in. Very easy. So I like the wind resistance. I'm liking the realism of them. The weight's not bad. They do quite have a bit of memory when they are all set up though. So it does take some fluffing to kind of get the little dents out from where you fold them up to put them in your vest. The one downside, they're not very expensive. Like I said, I wish they would give them to me, but I had to go purchase these. Now, anytime I set decoys up, one thing I always try to do is have them facing the same general direction. If you Google pictures of turkey flocks, most of them are heading in the same direction. When I duck and goose hunt, I don't really concern myself on that as much because the duck and the goose is swimming around. These turkeys are walking through the woods in a flock. So it's real important, you don't want to have this one facing that way, the Jake decoy there facing totally away, the opposite way from that one, and that decoy over there facing, that way. Something like this would be fine. The Jake and the other hen are going that way. This one's kind of coming in at an angle. I have seen turkeys hang up or flare because of a decoy setup. If it's a super windy day, get yourself a little stick nearby. Stick it in the ground on either side. That way, if the wind catches your decoy, it's only moving a little bit. And the stick still looks natural, so, that's one of the things I kind of figured out, because I had a decoy spin one time. I had a tom he was probably about 50, 55 yards away, almost in range. Wind caught my decoy, and it did like that. He was gone. So if you have a real windy day, secure them with sticks. Like I said, I'm actually going to add a little bit of epoxy to that washer so it stays in one place on that rod. I may add a second washer on top just so I can kind of lock them down with the wing nuts. A little bit of movement is fine. You just don't want that big 180 spin. that's basically my decoy tips. So I'm back at the base of my tree that I was going to set up on. First thing, I'm just going to take my boot and kind of kick the leaves out of the way. You can see the decoys out there. Again, they're out there about 30 yards. A pretty comfortable range for myself when I'm out turkey hunting. So I get set against the tree, get my butt pad against me. This vest has a pad in the back to make it comfortable. First thing I do, I get my calls out. Set my slates to my right or my left. And then I set my strikers right with them. I go into my pocket here with my mouth calls, pull out a couple of calls. Like I said, I have a Beaver Creek mouth call here. And I will tuck those right in the band of my hat. Also have a Hardy's mouth call. I picked this up at the sportsman show over at Howard County this spring. Pretty impressed with it. It's got a nice cut, nice sound to it. And same thing, I'll just tuck them in my hat band. Then I'll zip my jacket back up. My next step is going to be go ahead and get my vest undone. I'm really not worried about having it on me. I want to be nice and comfortable. Now, depending on whatever type of weapon you're using, like I said, I bow hunt. I use my crossbow a lot. If I have my crossbow with me, it's back in the truck. I kind of wrapped up for the day. I'd set my knee, have my crossbow cocked, bolt on it. I'm going to set my crossbow right on my knee, have the buttstock right here under my armpit. That way it's pretty much ready to go. If I had a shotgun or something with me, same thing. I'm going to set up on one of my knees, buttstock underneath my armpit. It'll sit there, be nice and secure. Pretty much ready to go. All you have to do is raise it up to your shoulder and go. Now, if you're doing archery, this type of setup's really not going to work well for archery because you're going to have to draw that bow. If I do the archery, I will set up a small blind in front of me. And there's nothing saying you can't set up a small blind in front of you if that's what makes you comfortable and makes you confident. By all means, set a small blind in front of you. I've seen folks drape camouflage burlap over top of them. I mean, this is hunting. If you're confident, you run a better chance of being successful. If you're out there and you're not 100% sure what you're doing, you're still learning, building that confidence. You are going to make some mistakes. Turkey hunting is very difficult. Their eyesight is super keen. If you stick with it, kind of learn from some of your mistakes, it's very satisfying in the end, because you're going to call that big Tom in. You're going to have to talk him in the whole way. It's almost like you're an air traffic controller. Talk him in, make him think that those foam decoys out there are real turkeys. I mean, I've had several experiences where I've had busted hunts myself. Or a couple of years ago, I had called in a fox at the same time as I called in the turkey. The turkey was coming to me. The fox was coming from behind me. The fox got here, startled me. I moved. The turkey was gone. But if I convinced that fox and that turkey that those foam decoys out there were turkeys, I had a very successful hunt. You know, yeah, it kind of stinks going home empty-handed. But I walked out of the woods very pleased with myself that day, because I knew my calling was good. Because not only did I fool a turkey himself, I also fooled a fox. And they're two of the slyest creatures probably in the woods. I've had the experiences with the decoys blowing in the wind. I've had where I choked on a mouth call. I mean, unfortunately, things happen. So try not to get down on yourself. Just go out there, have a good time, have an experience. Like I said, today, my hunt this morning was a total flop. Like I said, I heard one tiny gobble. Never really saw anything. I did call in a fox, and I called in a raccoon, coming to think that they were going to have a nice turkey dinner. So it wasn't a total bust. And now I'm sitting here making a video to share some of my experiences with folks that are new, or folks that have been doing this for a while. Maybe somebody that's been doing it for a while and ran into some of the frustrations I've had. The decoys blowing in the wind, stuff like that. You know, maybe this will help them out. But once I get set up, I'll give it 15 minutes or so, and I'm going to throw out some calls. So I'm going to start off here with my Beaver Creek Game Changer with the Corncob Striker. These are one of my confidence calls. I'm very confident with both of my glass calls. Personally, I don't prefer slate. I tried a copper one. I wasn't getting the sounds that I like. The best advice I can give you is go out there, get a couple of calls. You're going to find one. I had a slate call that I first started with. I came in a starter set. Had 2 holes drilled in it. And they had done it so you could kind of trace them with your strikers to learn the motions. Well, when I get calling, I'm looking around. That slate call I had that had the 2 holes, when I get looking around, my striker would go in one of those holes every time. I no longer have that call. But that's the Beaver Creek. Now, if you notice, it's It's kind of soft. It's got a little raspiness to it. My other confidence call, and I use a totally different striker on it. I use a carbon striker on this little deuce as well, is a double glass call. Little crisper, a little bit clearer, a little bit louder. Yeah, it's two pieces of glass. It's a glass soundboard with a piece of glass over top of it. Now with your glass calls, you also need, or your slates, a maintenance tool of some form. Primos makes this. It's got a diamond stone on one side. It's got a regular, like, sharpening stones style material on the other. Has a piece of chalk if you're using a box call in the handle. I personally don't like box calls, but I'll take this. Every so often. Now I try to do things like this before I come and just rough the face of the call up. That helps that striker bite a little better. If you drop your strikers in the mud, like this one, just stuck it down in the dirt, the tip of it's all filled with mud. It has a little Scotch Brite there. You can clean your striker out. When I bought the Beaver Creek call, they sent me the Corn Dog striker with it. I do like this with that call. I really don't like it with my little deuce. Now, on calling frequency, that's something that you'll pick up as you go. This morning, the woods were pretty quiet. Like I said, I had the one soft gobble that I heard. Really haven't heard anything else. I didn't call as much. So when I made my first set of yelps and cuts and stuff, I gave it 15 minutes. Did a second set, maybe a little bit softer. And I would switch back and forth between calls. sit here, just look around as I'm doing it, watching. You'll have deer come past you. Like I said, this morning I had a raccoon. There was plenty of squirrels. Those turkey decoys put everything at ease. I have so much bug spray on. I had a deer come past 15 yards. Dynamite shot if I'd been archery hunting. It was perfect. That deer never even noticed me. I believe the turkey decoys put them at ease, and I may try some this year during deer season, popping out a decoy or two and seeing if it really has an effect. So give it some time. If you get a response, you want to listen. If you get a good response, call again. If he continues to respond, take it up a notch. If he stops, stop as well. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I really can't teach you on a video. You'll pick it up as you do this. The biggest thing is, if I've called, I've got the tom coming, I can hear from his gobbles. He's getting closer and closer. He's getting fired up. As soon as I get that, mouth call comes out of the hat, goes into my mouth. Now with these diaphragm calls, there's tons and tons of them out there. I have some Beaver Creek ones. I have some from Hardee's. I have some from Strut Commander. I have some from Loman. I believe I have some HS Strut ones I've bought. In my pack, all my favorite ones are closest to my body. The ones that I'm not a big fan of, I put towards the front of it. That way, if it's dark and I'm fumbling to get in there, I know I just open this up and go, oh, there's my Strut Commander. And that's just it's a straight call, a straight cut diaphragm. That one's very comfortable. It locks in my teeth well. I have the Beaver Creek ones. It's a little bit louder, a little bit raspier sounding. Again, it locks in my teeth. Well, I'm not a master with the diaphragm calls myself. I know there's tons of people that are a lot better than I am. But I like having numerous calls because it allows me to change the tone I'm gonna say it's an orange one, which is Beaver Creek call. Real sharp and crisp. Sounds just like a young hen to me. Now, if I sit in one spot for an hour, hour and a half, and I get to the point that I realize, hey, that tom's hung up, you know, it's just not working today, I'll move. I'll go back out on the lane, walk towards the back of the property, walk towards the front of the property, do some calling. If I get a response, right into the woods, get set up. You don't have to put decoys out every time. This is what I do. Now, there's times I'll put just a single hen decoy out. There's times I'll put two hen decoys out with a jake. There's times I'll put a strut and gobbler decoy out with the jake and the hen. You know, there's tons and tons of things. I mean, you kind of got to go through it and find what works for you. You know, just because I set 3 decoys up today doesn't mean that that's what you have to do every time. Like I said, I'll always bring at least 3 decoys with me. I might put 1, I might put 2, I might purchase a jake. You know, sometimes them toms are looking for that jake it's trying to get with his hands. That's the part that's going to come with going out here and experiencing this. I really, really hope you guys enjoyed this one. You know, if you have any questions, feel free to comment. You know, hit us on Facebook or Instagram. We'll get right back to you. You can message us on Facebook Messenger. If you have a turkey hunting question, you know, if you're local and you want to meet up and see some of this stuff, you know, give me a holler. You know, give us a shout on Messenger. We'll get up, help get you set up, you know, kind of show you a few things that I've picked up over the years. Like I said, comfortable clothes, comfortable boots, a comfortable vest. Because you're going to be sitting on this, you might sit on this thing for an hour. I've sat on this pad for 4.5 hours working that tom in. You know, he took his time. He come in 2 foot at a time. And he was 150 yards from me when I set up. I'm not one for name brand stuff. Like I said, the decoys are the redhead feather flock. My vest is a redhead. My calls, mostly HS strut. I do have some primos. The Beaver Creek game calls. And that Hardy company. But I'll buy new calls every year. I'll see something and try it. You know, I'll play with it at the house for a while. If it doesn't work for me, it doesn't go in my vest because I carry a lot of stuff with me. I mean, there's times I'll have 2 GoPros, a whole handful of GoPro batteries, memory cards, whatever I'm using to hunt that day, be it my crossbow, be it my bow. arrows for either of those, you know, calls, you know, so you don't want to pack everything you have with you all the time. Like I said, this little pouch, I found that this year. Some of the calls I have came in little clear plastic boxes. Used to have a pocket on the side of my vest. I would just shove a couple of them in and would leave the boxes at home and just rotate them. Now I can carry like a dozen diaphragm calls with me, just hangs around my neck. So get out there and do it. Like I said, I'm going to try to get some infield footage this year. So far it's been pretty tough, but we'll catch you guys on the next video. So to wrap this up, as I was pulling out of the hunting spot this morning, I noticed the farmer that allows me to hunt pulling in to care for his animals. I took a half an hour out of my time, talked to him, helped him load up a couple of cattle that he's selling, and that assures my hunting rights for many, many years. So when you're out there hunting, if you're hunting private property, don't forget your landowners. Your landowners are the guys that give you the right to enjoy their property at either a minimal charge or no charge at all. So you want to get out there and help them out if you can. Remember that. It goes a long, long way.